Either got this right here.
Did you get 3 of these, or was one of them?
Yeah, each one of us got them.
This is the original one.
On the right.
I have the
And then-
original in here too with markup on it, but
We got that one you got marked up.
no, that's not the
Thanks for
markup.
life.
It actually shows strikeouts and word changes and all that good stuff, but
We're going to call this meeting to order. Do we need to do the pledge today? Special meetings here?
You want
Let's
to?
do it anyway.
Yeah, let's do it.
Call this to order, all stand face the flag for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Rick Luther,
present.
R.J. Donovan,
Here.
Tim Wilkin. Today we're going to be discussing the commercial solar ordinance, and I'll open it up for discussion. One of the things I want to make some clarification here that I believe it was last November, it came up to be passed, and I did not vote on that. I did sign the paper. I seen where I did, but at the end of the meetings, if you'd watch up here, we have a lot of signing going on, and a lot of papers come, and I cannot clarify that I really recognize doing that. But the reason why I did not vote for it at the first reading, because it was not done. I asked zoning to have a meeting, open meeting with the people to give them a choice to get feedback and read it, and that was not done. And I think in passing an ordinance, I think that number one thing you need to do is get the people involved, keep them informed, and let them know what's going on. So that was my purpose. I was not against the ordinance. I was against, I don't think we had enough vetting of it and letting people know. So I want to clarify that right up front. So we're here today. I'd like to say that we appreciate the zoning board and what they've done. They've done a lot of work on this, and we do appreciate their efforts, and we need to get this thing resolved and back to them so they can move on. And there's several projects I hear that possibly are going on here in the county, and we'd like to see them be able to move on. So
I guess one question I have, Tim, and I guess it'd be better if John was here to answer this. Are we operating as though this ordinance is already in place and we're going to amend it? Or are we operating as the ordinance has never been put into effect? Yeah, because I think maybe if it's amended, would that be a shorter timetable of changing it if we operated as an amended as an ordinance that's in place and we amend it instead of doing the 45?
Well, I think the question will be and this is where it gets a little obscure. Amending, answer your question, amending is easier.
That's what I mean.
And what that says though is that the original document was approved properly, or approved.
Yeah, which we could say, under the circumstances we weren't aware of, everything that happened, or we could say we misconstrued some of the information. But if we're looking to move quicker, I don't know if it might be simpler for us to recognize that it was passed properly and then we're operating as an amendment to the ordinance. But
to me, I think it gets back to what Tim's intent was when he signed the document, and whether he knew he signed it, for that matter. I know that we do get a number of documents up here, and sometimes they're not a whole document, and you think you're signing one thing, and it ends up being another, which we're probably going to have to change how all that occurs.
I wasn't against it. I was just the procedure of informing the people and having a chance of people informed, like we did on the other one, was the way it should have been done. It wasn't.
I guess the question kind of goes back to me. It kind of goes back to you, Tim. Where do you sign? I said in the audience, I didn't see you vote for it. I didn't see you vote against it either.
I didn't vote.
Anyway, that has to be unanimous for one reading, and it wasn't unanimous between the three, even though you abstained or was silent, whatever the case may be. It wasn't a unanimous decision. The question gets back as to, you signed the document after the fact, or later on that evening. What was your intent? To go ahead and allow it to go through, even though you were silent on the voice vote?
And if that is the case, then we could operate as the ordinance passed, and then we could amend it to or we could make our, recommendations with an amendment, which would be a quicker process.
Otherwise, the other thing that can happen, I think, is that it's already had one reading, even though this is months later. It should have happened before now.
Yeah.
But I guess we could also take a second vote on it this evening, which would take, regardless of what happened before, take that out of play.
Mm-hmm.
And say that whether it was approved properly or improperly, then it becomes proper if it would pass with at least 2 commissioners voting out of the 3 anyway,
Yeah,
or all 3,
yeah, we
whatever.
could do that, yeah.
I think that might, again, if John was here, that might be a better, but that's a possibility anyway.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking if we wanted to move forward with it, instead of trying to redo the whole process again, we can add a lot of this to this. If we take this document here that's already.
Right, I think if Tim doesn't have an objection with it, I think we could proceed that way, of either recognizing it as an existing document or we can also take a vote today
And do
to
that.
make it official anyway. I don't know that it interferes with there's not been any applications I know of.
It's just that I think there's some coming down the pipe rather.
Right, but I mean, it doesn't change anything.
No, because nothing's happened prior.
Before us, minus discussion of people.
I'm all for doing it as quick as possible, and what we can do to make that happen. I think that.
Would you have any objection to either one of those?
Well, I think there was a couple different things that I think you shared. You had some concern with the permitting fees.
Well, I think that's just after.
Is that something?
We can go back, if it gets approved, then we can go back to amendments.
And then we can amend it, so we're trying to.
That doesn't mean that I think you still have to advertise amendments though.
Yeah, I think so,
It
but
won't all happen today.
We're just trying to get it to where it's a little bit simpler process to get to that amendment phase, instead of restarting over and sending it to zoning, sending it back, and doing this, longer process.
Amending is a much simpler process.
So, I mean, I think one of the things that you brought up was the permits and renewing of those permits. I think that was an excellent idea that needs to be incorporated in there somewhere.
And I think we can incorporate whatever.
Can we go ahead and do that later after we go ahead and?
Any ordinance, from my understanding of it and talking with John about it, is that any ordinance can be amended at a later date, but you still have to follow the publication and all those type things. So it doesn't. If it would pass today as standing as a standalone document, then that's what the ordinance will stand as. We can amend it even today, but it has to go through that process of advertisement. And I'm not sure that I've not looked at that amending process, whether we have to do that as a advertisement, wait 2 weeks or a month or whatever. I'm not sure how that amendment, I'd have to go back and read how that amendment process.
But the only thing about it is, if we would do that, then those changes we want to make to that, those that apply before we make those changes would not be under the same.
Depends on how the permitting, it depends on how the BZA or APC and BZA approach this. Because if it's amended before it's an approved permit for somebody to say Luther Solar wants to go in today, I put an application in today. If that application isn't approved and the ordinance changed, I do not believe that my ordinance or my application will have to be amended as well to comply with whatever, assuming that I don't get an approved permit by the time that there's an amendment added to it. We'd have to ask John as to whether that's true or not, whether it follows suit or not.
I think, I think moving forward, saying that this is a standalone ordinance and then moving on to the amendment will be probably our best course of.
Yeah, we'd go through the same this process. We'd have to make these recommendations back to the zoning board. Right?
Not amendments, no. But if we're going to say this was not passed properly and it still is still outstanding at this point. Actually, I think it's rejected. I think it ends up starting over altogether again if it doesn't stand.
And I don't think.
I think it's rejected because it didn't gain approval. Ooh. This is
Yeah.
not an easy.
Need
I know I've asked John these questions, and then I get, it depends. The easiest thing is to let it stand. That's easy. I don't know that we want easy. I'm not a person that goes for easy.
I would have no
necessarily.
problem with letting it stand as long as some of these things can be addressed, added, or, discussed or put in
But just be
there.
aware that any permit that comes in would possibly be grandfathered into, or not grandfathered, be going with whatever's
Yeah,
here.
that's what I'm
Whatever's
saying.
here currently,
Right.
all that does is, us as commissioners, we need to put that, as a top priority as the amendments go and pushing that forward that way. We don't drag it out 6 months with amendments or a year, whatever it is, if that's one of our priorities, to get those amendments changed.
I don't know if this hurts or helps things. I know that I'm not pleased with the existing commercial ordinance, and amendments will take some time to get to the point that I would have a favorable vote for myself. We're not looking at the next meeting, I don't think.
No, nothing.
Even if you could do it that quickly. There's a number of items I think should be addressed, and I think people should have some input into those.
Yes.
Because I've talked to other people, and they make some very good points as to why we should do something that I've written already, or why we shouldn't be doing that. They're good arguments. And it depends on, I think it needs discussion, or I would feel better with the discussion on those line items. So anywhere that we go with this, other than approving it today, will probably take some time on my part.
Yeah.
So, so it's not gonna be quick if we don't go the amendment route. And when we go the amendment route, it's not gonna be quick. It's just a matter of whether we have an ordinance in place for now or not.
But we could possibly bring it up to a vote today, and if the majority votes to.
Then you would say you have an ordinance, a commercial solar ordinance.
You do, and as long as there's not something really detrimental in there, I don't know that, I'd have to go back and reread the original ordinance. I just know that I had a lot of issues with different parts of it.
Well, that's what we gotta decide, if is anyone here representing anybody that's got solar, they're ready to move on right now, and they need it done by a certain date, or, I mean,
I'm just here for Oregon. They've been doing a lot of homework, and they've positioned themselves for, utility
So
regulatory
how-
commission approval, and they're marching through the hoops.
how close are you to permit?
They wanted a permit last week after the meeting, because when
You won't come up here and speak, it's a plug, I'm talking to Bob first.
Or either one, whoever.
Bob first,
Oh, okay.
please, you're next.
Whoever wants to.
Take a number, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, we're
Enter, say who you are.
Bob Gray, Vermillion Rise Mega Park, Oregon. There's a news release, 10 days ago about their filing for approval with the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission for an interconnection and a power purchase agreement. So, those are the things that evidence they're very serious and are moving forward. And as Lynn noted, this zoning permit is another big milestone. They
Right.
want to get on and don't want that as an anchor or something that would potentially delay them. They're in a pretty definitive timetable.
Okay.
Had they presented a schedule, Bob?
In a broad sense, I'm sorry, I don't have it with me or anything. We can get that.
Yeah, I just had a
Say your
lunch
name.
with them, Lynn Brewer, Economic Development, and they had asked about permitting. And so I had talked to you, and you thought possibly that they would be passing it at last week's meeting. And so he asked me to have them hold off until after that. So they did, and then I let them know that you guys were going to have a special session today. But they're ready to permit.
And who is that?
Oriton, the ones that are going
Okay,
in.
same company, okay.
Same company, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Is there any, you don't have to be specific, but does anyone know if there's other people applied for permits yet already?
Not to my knowledge.
I want to know the name, I'm just wondering if there was others that would already.
There is one other entity, I don't know that it's being official, but there's another one looking down there at the Peabody ground.
Yeah, whatever they
The
call
old
that.
Peabody ground, so. But there's, I don't know where that stands, whether they're gonna be serious or not.
What do you all think about, one of the things we was talking about is permitting to, what was you talking about, Brett, maybe every 5 to 7 years, or?
Initially, it'd be a 7-year period, given that it would take them up to 2 years maybe to get their other permits and everything in order before that 5-year would start. But effectively, it means a 5-year program, of which every 5 years that permit would have to be renewed. Ogden wrote me a letter indicating that that's I don't know if it was showstopper or exactly how they put it, but it is definitely an obstacle to them. I think the reasoning, I could pull it up and actually read the letter. Maybe I should do that. While I do that, but to paraphrase that, what I think they said in there was that for them to develop the financing and go through the motions that they're going through and through the legal structures and so forth, is that it would be ominous for them to come back and not know that they had a project at the end of 5 years. So say that they went through a 5-year period or 7-year period, whatever it is, that if that could be denied to them at the 5th year or the permit wouldn't be renewed, that is a definite detriment to them being able to start a project, period.
And I'd say
I think that
probably-
was their essence.
Yeah, and I would say that would probably go for any solar project. I mean, I'm not, I would say that'd go for probably anybody.
The thing is that to counter that a little bit, I understand, I think their perspective on it, and I think it needs further review. But mining, reclamation acts, which have a large area effect, of which they have permits, they have to be renewed on a period. But they also have substantial violations and inspections, monthly inspections, and substantial violations also if you don't conform to what you put into your permit. That's one of the issues I guess I have with this now, is that there is no penalty, basically. Once you get your zoning, whatever happens after that is what it is.
Seemed like the state would have some type of inspection division for solar or something that would
Well,
oversee.
They don't, that I know of. If you're under the URC, Utility Regulatory Commission, but that has to do more with rates and things like that, not really, or whether you're going to be on certain lines, but I don't believe that has anything to do with whether you do a good job on site or not, unless you're disrupting the power grid in some way. The minus to this I see at this point is that it has, I don't know that's enforceable in any aspect that it has. I think it's still, if I remember right, this one still has a bonding requirement. With that whole bonding, to give you an idea, the state statutes on a mine reclamation or for a landfill for bonding is ominous. And they have a whole division set up just for the bonding. They have attorneys. The bonding is a big issue for the county. I don't think we can afford to hold bonds and to be able to implement or ever have to go after a bond. Initially, it's not going to be a problem. The first 5 years or 10 years for any of these projects, they're going to be well financed. They're going to come in, they're going to build things. Maybe they'll look good, maybe they'll operate just well. Bonding doesn't really come into play with most of those unless there's a bankruptcy or something that happens right up front because they screw up. But it's down the road. When you get down the road when things aren't working as well, where they've been sold now to somebody else, possibly. It doesn't address what happens when they drop their bonds or they don't pay for their bonds. We don't have an entity that will sit there and read everything that comes through, I don't believe, for the county to be able to see, well, yeah, they dropped their bond, and we're getting our 60-day notice that they dropped their bond, and by the time we recognize it, it will be down the road fairly far. And then what's the implementation of that? Okay, they dropped their bond. Are we going to pay their bond? Are we going to ask for the forfeiture of the bond. There's a certain period of time you can ask for that forfeiture. But would we? And then the other aspect of it is that say we have a bond, what are we going to do with it? This is private property. We can't go in on private property. We weren't a party to any of these agreements that anybody's signing to date anyway. And I don't know how we would become a party to any of those agreements or want to become a party to any of those agreements.
I understand your concern, and to be truthful, I wouldn't want to see us have to hold bonds either, but if you look at all the counties are doing it that way.
But nobody's had because everybody does it doesn't make it good nor right. How many times have you seen things happen that and you go, wow, I'm glad we didn't do it that way? We're seeing places that they maybe would like to forfeit bonds too. But on what basis are you going to forfeit a bond on what we know today to be this document? Let's say that you can go after a bond and it is there. That's a big, well, anyway, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts to that bonding thing. There's a performance standard. What is the bond for? How do you go after the bond if you need to? What is the bond going to pay for? The way I kind of read it is that if I can hook up a battery out there, even though I got 1,000 acres of solar fields, even they're not producing to the commercial anymore, maybe they're going to do my house. I expect 1,000 acres worth of solar panels will probably power my house no matter how bad a shape they are in. So it's still producing at that point. So you can't go after the bonds because it's still producing. Or I hook up a 12-volt battery out there and I connect it. It's still producing. There is no standards there to say when it's not.
Right.
It takes a lot to go through, and then to what degree are you going to reclaim to, if that's the reason for the bond. You got bid bonds, you got payment bonds, you got performance bonds, and you got maintenance bonds. And it doesn't even say what that bond is, I don't think. Maybe it does. Again, it's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah, but I think we're back to the original of, before we can ever do amendments or do the other thing, we need to kind of decide, are we gonna, before, because I think there's issues regardless either way we go.
I agree.
I think we need to decide if we decide today that we should vote and say this is a standalone ordinance, or if the majority of us believes that, then our focus shifts to the amending side of it, because I think we all have issues with the ordinance. But like you said, is it something so detrimental that if we don't get it done in 6 months and we have a permit issued, are we going to be able to live with that? If a permit, and that's kind of the question is, I think like Lynn said, there's somebody ready to get a permit. So I personally am okay with, moving to, pass this as a standalone ordinance and then pushing forward with the amendment process. Because I hate to see us lose any, companies, and I don't personally believe there's something detrimental in here that's going to affect the county that way. And I think the zoning board's done a good job. I think,
they did a good job.
and I think anybody, if they had a little more direction, maybe in the years past, maybe they would have done some different things. But overall, I think they've done fantastic. I know you couldn't pay me to sit in those meetings that they put on. I really applaud every member, that does that. So that's my 2 cents anyway. I don't know if we need a motion to that effect, or if we need to.
What I was saying is not instrumental at this point. It's just showing
Well,
one
yeah,
aspect of
yeah.
it. So we need to get back to the original question as to whether how we were going to do this.
I would support the commercial ordinance 2020-15 as a standalone ordinance, that it was passed, and if we're reaffirming that, whatever we need to say. And then from that point forward, I would move that we, work on amendments and following the amendment process, getting with John and seeing how to move forward that way.
So,
I don't know if I need to say it, that's my motion, or.
is that your motion? Or is that
Well, I think, it can be, because I'm not sure if all of us are going to support it, so
Well, you can make the motion, see if it gets a second.
Yeah.
And then
I guess I can say
just-
I'll make a motion that we, I'll make a motion that the commercial solar energy amendment to the county zoning ordinance number 2020-15 stands and reaffirms that it's an existing ordinance in the county.
No second.
Now we can have our discussion.
And we can have more discussion.
part of this discussion, and I would like to hear a little bit from what some of the stakeholders have that are at least present, if we would allow that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bob or Lynn has any?
As to what, there might be some expectations and. I mean,
Yeah, maybe from Orden or even the other company, I think.
Or from our economic development, or
Yeah.
from the RISE.
Yeah, either one, if
I
either
mean,
one of you have any comments on.
He doesn't represent Oregon, he represents the RISE,
Yeah.
so I don't know that he can really speak for them.
Yeah.
Unless they've made him an agent of some
No,
sort.
no, I'm just, it's just going from conversation that we've had. Gary McLaren with Orden indicated to us, and then maybe was in a correspondence, that they participated in the putting together the ordinance that was crafted by Plan Commission, and he thought it was very conventional. It reflected what sort of best practice and some of the model draft ordinance that trade associations and universities and other people had put together. So they thought it was a very much middle of the road, conventional ordinance and very workable for Vermilion County. So I'll share that I don't think it's maybe one way or the other, lenient or too restrictive. It's in the middle, and there may be room for adjustments over time. The bonding thing is intriguing. That's just my own personal things now, that it seems to be what's being utilized in the industry in communities that are doing projects like this. On the other hand, when I hear Britton explain some of the nuances, it does kind of give you pause as to how these instruments are fully utilized when you need them, when the wheels come off. So maybe there is some tweaks to that. From our standpoint, with this project that is maybe in the front runner, we're going to be crafting the lease agreement, and we're a public body. So, there is that sort of, I think our project has a backstop that we can include things in the lease as a government that maybe a private landowner may not have the wherewithal or interest in doing things like that. So I'll just share that as we are kind of an anomaly in that way, and Orden kind of realizes that. Normally they're dealing with 8 or 10 landowners assembling parcels, and we're a little different in this regard. So anyway, it's just.
Question for you, Bob.
Mhm.
Is the land that they're interested in, how is it currently zoned? Is it in industrial, commercial, agricultural?
It's all
the above?
industrial.
It's all industrial.
Yeah, it's all industrial, the whole park, except for the highway frontage and the conservation areas for the bat habitat. So it's pretty much.
I thought it had some commercial in it.
Yeah,
too.
on the front highway, commercial, yes.
Even the stuff outside of the fence is considered industrial?
I think most of it, on the far west side. I mean, it's almost 3,500 acres of industrial, so it's,
Thank you.
Thank you.
How does this affect you? Good, bad, and different? How's this ordinance, as it's currently read?
Potentially.
Yeah, I think I've looked at it as, and followed along associations and trade groups, and it seems to be like I said, a good middle of the road. I think Orden would value having something they could work against from a timing standpoint, and I think that's clearly the consideration here, is time.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just add one thing on top of that.
You can add 2 things if you wish.
Only one that I can really think of. When I did talk to Orden, and as he said, they were part of crafting this ordinance. They came to the meetings and took part in comments and stuff. And as they said, once they perceived it to be in effect, they have worked off of that as their model to be able to permit. And so that's their concern too. If things change, they're going to have to start over, and where they have already used this model to get ready for permitting. So.
Thank you.
You in the back?
Do you have an interest?
Come up here and, can you come up here and at least address us and let you know who you are and what your concerns are today, if you could?
I'm not able to speak. I'm with Apex, but I'm not able to speak on this at this time.
Okay.
Listening, taking.
Okay. You have the right to speak if you want to.
Should Penny, the director for APC, weigh in on this? Or we care?
They already have weighed in on it. I mean, they sent it to us. I guess they weighed in on it when they sent it to us.
Okay.
But I think, I don't think none of us want to hold up anything in the county, but we also don't want to, if there's some tweaking we can do later without affecting,
Well, I think there's no
Yeah.
doubt we'll look at amendments and definitely sit down and, like you said, maybe more work sessions of some kind.
For my, best I can gather from this, is there's a permit required, but there's no standards for what they're gonna act. There are some things in here that they say there's gonna be a permit. Has the permit been drafted yet for this?
I would imagine it has been.
Okay. Can we see it?
Well, let's just go through and read it.
Yeah, I would
real quick.
assume that,
When I
yeah.
asked her, she said just wait until after this meeting and then.
And yeah, I would imagine that if they called tomorrow that they would have a permit. I mean, that's what.
Well, I mean, we have a permit,
Yeah.
but I've not seen it.
Well, you haven't seen it, but you
No,
know.
yeah, what are we asking for? A site plan? What are we
I
asking?
can't
in
say that I've
permit?
seen it either, I mean, I trust that the APC board and the director have it anyway, but I'm sure she can get us a copy of it if you wanna review it. Oh, Bob, I think Bob's got it.
It's my understanding fromOrden that they've reviewed the existing ordinance, or that ordinance in question, and they seem to be confident that they can provide, a packet of information that addresses all of the
Addresses everything.
requirements, and so yeah, I don't think we've got to fill in the blank application form, but I think they're comfortable to provide all the information that's desired.
I believe they are,
Yeah.
probably too.
Yeah.
Most companies are, it's just typically there's a permit that tells you exactly what you need to provide, or a permit. I just have not seen it.
I'd be happy
Sure.
to. Said she's got something.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we have that. I don't know that really
According-
comes into play, but.
According to this original, it's saying that there's $500 fee for the permit,
For application.
one time, flat fee, regardless of size.
I think that's one of the issues RJ had.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of mine, and I think ordinance said something in an email that, they thought 25,000 was a little outrageous, but I mean, I've done some research on some counties and they do, but they've got it labeled out what each cost goes to, and that's just another potential amendment for future projects that we could.
And that's where I put in placeholders in another
I see
document, but
that,
they're
yeah.
placeholders. When we do a fee, we need to identify what those
You-
fees are for. We can't be charging,
You can't just say 100,000 for 100,000.
No.
You gotta say 20,000, 5,000 for the recording this for the meeting, it's gotta be labeled out
it should be.
and
yes.
document instead of a guy going, well, I worked on your yard for 30 hours, or I worked on it and here's my fee, or not even hours, just say, here's my fee.
Yeah.
It needs to be documented out.
Right. We have to justify our fee, or should justify our
Yeah.
fees.
That's just, like I said, more amendments that I think we can.
But I agree that that's a,
And I don't think the
That
adjustment of
covers,
fees
yeah.
is something that's a start or a stop on anybody applying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't see that as a, something that somebody's gonna scream about, or keep them from building, if they're not- maybe it's 500,000, $500 ain't gonna
Yeah.
matter to them, I don't think.
I guess maybe wait till she gets back, but are we done with discussion? Or, I don't know, I have anything more to offer.
Yeah, I don't have anything either.
We'll maybe wait and see if Penny has something, but,
She couldn't be out doing inspections. I think I seen her make her round. I think I seen Lynn go out and start walking around, so she might be, or maybe she's tracking her down, seeing if she's in her office.
You talking about Penny?
Yeah.
Well, she could've came in there if she wanted to.
but anyway, I'm not sure it makes, hopefully they'll have a permit
Yeah.
that they'll draft and actually have something to approve, and that's
Yeah.
consistent between companies. The reason why you need it is it needs to be consistent between companies, that whenever or individuals.
Yeah, I don't
or
think it'll be
whatever.
different. I think
Well,
it'll
that-
be a flat.
That's the thing about it is that when they apply for this permit, where is all them forms at for applying?
Well, that's what I'm talking
The
about.
APC would,
That's,
Lynn's.
But that's,
Okay, so I talked to Penny, they had started crafting one, but then once they realized you guys were not going to send it back through again. They've kind of held off on it.
So they're waiting on us.
They do have a meeting Thursday night where they can finish crafting it and should be ready to
Okay, so
permit
then
by
they would-
Monday.
Okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
it's already in the works, they
So
just
they're
kind of
waiting
held
on
off
us.
on it.
Can you, we need to have them send that to us before that meeting so we can look at it, decide, so we can look at that form.
I think one of us.
Well, they're gonna finish crafting it Thursday night though, so it's not a done permit at this point.
I'm sure if we
until after
ask
their
her, she
meeting.
can send it to us.
After, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Penny
think
or
one of us
Bob.
need to get John Spur on the phone and ask him what we do today, is that legitimate, what we're doing to pass it, and as it was, and it could be go ahead and move on with that, or if that, I'm saying, what we're doing here, I know what our intent is, but is it, from his standpoint, is it the thing that we can actually do and it'll be binding?
I don't have a problem with calling him, if you want to put him on the phone.
I ain't got no cell phone service in here.
I don't think I do either.
You have AT&T too?
No, I have it here.
Well, there's a phone right there behind
It
you.
doesn't work?
I'll just text him.
Decoration purposes only.
I don't think I have service either, but.
I thought about
take that
switching to
back. I got-
Verizon, but I know as soon as I do, I'll just get worse service.
I got 4 bars in here. I bet you that's not true.
I'm thinking about just switching to like Cricket or something. I always hear they have like great service. Cricket or like.
Let me know how that works for you,
Do you have Cricket? What do you have?
Verizon.
Do you have? I have AT&T. I'm wanting to pull the trigger and just get some other one and just. Because anybody I talked to with like Cricket or like Straight Talk seems like they never don't have service.
Are you calling him?
Tim.
Tim, are you calling him?
Yeah, I'm texting him first, and he might be able to respond right back. He might be in a meeting.
Might be quicker to call his cell phone.
I don't think that thing works. I think they've got one. Dial tone, so.
Let's give him a little bit of time to respond.
We've gotten 4 or 5 sealed bids for the sealed bid things we put out.
What?
We've got 4 or 5 sealed bids for the equipment and
Good.
sheriff's vehicles. Yeah, I got a phone call from some guy from Champaign yesterday.
We probably should stay on
No,
topic.
no,
We have
I'm
motion killing time.
I'm just killing time.
What all do you have up there?
I got a roller. You need a roller?
One that works, not round, it's flat.
It works. I got a paver that I don't think works. It's got weeds growing beside it. I got a chipper.
Does that
someone-
paper still work?
I don't know. It's sat outside for a while. I don't know.
What about you say you got a chipper?
Yeah, someone stole a motor off of it last year.
Threw what in it?
Stole the motor off of it.
Stole the motor off of it?
We went to hook it up from when we were chipping trees, and Colby called me and goes, RJ, I don't have a chipper. And I said, I thought we had one. He goes, I'm going to have to borrow Mike's because the motor's gone. I said, well, how long has the motor been gone? Well, last time we used it was last fall. And I said, well, I guess someone stole it between last fall and...
They stole the motor off a chipper.
Yep. So we have a chipper for a sealed bid sale with no motor.
Is it a self-feeder, or is it just you throw it in?
I think you throw it in. You pull behind there and they throw it in. Yeah.
I'm trying to call him now.
We
Okay.
have another issue with, have you guys been missing signs, road signs?
Now mine gets spray painted.
We're losing them every month. And we
Really?
lost a barricade this last time.
Someone stole them?
Hey, we have a meeting today. I want to ask you a quick question.
They make
If we
Being recorded.
they
decide
make bolts.
to vote
It's
on
like-
the original
Those are hard to strip out or
solar
something.
ordinance,
But then they'll just...
can we just
then they'll
voice
just
vote
sign
and
it.
take a vote there and pass it, and that can move on from there, or do we have to
they
change
won't
it?
spray paint mine all the time.
I just wonder if you guys were having issues. We've been having some chronic issues. So,
No. That or I think mine's... People run them over too. They'll leave them, they'll run them over. But the kids...
So do we need to say it exactly that way, or just say we're going
I
to
assume
confirm
it's kids because
to
they
pass
spray
it
paint,
as
they'll put
stated?
go on a stop sign. But
No, we've almost had some accidents because the stop sign's missing. People will think it's a through street
Okay.
if they don't know.
I'm getting ready to order...
Okay, that's what we're going to do.
Where they say all way
Yeah.
on them, because I got a 4-way stop that's full of corn and beans, and I've got to put all way because people are running.
Sure.
Spurs said if we confirm that it was correctly passed, which, that would be our decision if it was correctly passed.
just-
We can confirm that and pass it today.
So the motion needs to be, you need to just affirm that it was passed correctly, and
And I think that gets back to how you end up voting on this. on the
if
motion.
you vote for it, then you're affirming that, your signature
Yeah.
that you're, okay, so I guess I'll scratch the earlier motion, or is that motion still good, you think?
I think the way you stated it.
You think
is
it's still good, reaffirm?
It's
Okay.
a matter of how he votes.
Okay, yeah, and you seconded it, right? Okay.
He seconded it.
Okay.
Just because he seconded, I mean.
I didn't,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't second anything, but I will, if need to be.
Well, you already
You
seconded
did,
my
you
motion.
seconded the motion.
Okay.
We're in discussion,
Thank you.
unless you're
Well,
gonna
we're
call for the
gonna-
vote.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Call for the vote. No.
Call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
There's your pass.
I'm not really opposed.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
I understand where you're at.
It's almost like an abstain, almost, kind of like a,
I abstain. I guess, I recall my negative vote to an abstention.
abstain.
That's really what I did the first time this came up. I really wasn't against it. I just abstained because I didn't like the process. I think you're in the same situation I was in.
Yeah, I'm not, yes. Anyway, I abstained.
So do we- so we
this
don't have-
passed, so now
Yeah.
we have the ordinance,
Is in effect,
yes.
2020-15? It's the one on your right there, Britton.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, do we need to give a spur about the amending process and kind of,
I've not reviewed the amendment process enough to say much of it about
Okay.
it.
We'd probably need John here to talk about that when we know how.
I think we can probably send him an email or something and kind of start working towards that.
Yes.
We could put that on the agenda for the next, is it too late to put anything on the meeting, for next meeting?
I'm sorry?
What's the deadline for next meeting?
Wednesday?
I guess.
I
Who
think it's
knows?
Wednesday or
That's
Thursday.
another thing we need a work session.
But I'm
We actually
saying,
need a
the
work
question,
session.
that's not a question. The question right now is, do we want to put that on the meeting for discussion?
Yes, we can put it on the
Yeah, I
agenda.
think,
It doesn't mean that we
Yeah, put that on there if you could. and
We'll have anything to address it.
We'll have
like
legal
that, but-
counsel here to talk about it.
All right, any other burning things for today with that, besides following up with the amendment process?
Yeah, I think that's where we're next.
Okay.
As to whether we want to discuss that now or take it back. And I know the fees are
Yeah.
probably an issue.
I
I
think
think
the
they are an
fees-
issue with me.
I think we need to put together a document, or one of us need to, about some of the amendment issues we have, maybe like a bulletin maybe or something.
Yeah, you've got what I put
Yeah,
in
I've got
writing
yours, what yours
what
are.
I have concerns about, or I think ought to be added. But those are some of that I guess feel strongly about, but a lot of that's talking points.
Yeah.
And I would prefer that everybody look at those things and then digest those and see if it's something that we want to add to the amendment, or as an amendment.
Yeah.
I think there are
wanna-
also things that, I think it's important to look at it because a lot of that has a carryover to this wind ordinance potentially.
Yeah.
Whether it goes through, and I think we need to, I would like to see how APC is planning on administering this bond thing. I think we need to call them in front of us to answer some of those type of questions
Sure.
that are in the current.
Or maybe we need to go to their meetings, make it, you know.
I guess we can.
Yeah.
They meet, what, once a
We're meeting
month?
this Thursday, I believe.
Once a
I
month?
kind
Well, I
of stayed
think-
out of the meetings because, they got a job to do, and if I go in, I feel like I'm
Well,
interfering with them.
I'm
what they're
sure
doing.
even if you wanted to, talk to Bob or the president, get the contact information and just talk to him or a few members and say, hey, I've got questions on the ordinance that was passed in the fall, and follow up with them that way. But I'm with you, I think we need to digest the comments. I definitely need to get with Spur and understand the amendment process. That way we're all aware of how that,
I agree, yeah.
that way we're all aware of, we're not just kind of, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Why, if there's nothing else on the amendment thing, I did want to, since we do have a special meeting, I did want to bring up,
A
it's all-
special meeting has to be
Is
part
it?
of the
Okay, then I'll
advertising.
just, I'll bring it up next meeting then.
And we can adjourn and talk about things as a work
Yeah.
session if you want to do that.
Well, it's just I'm not gonna, since we didn't advertise it, I'll just show you the paper.
Okay. Do we have any more to discuss, we want to discuss today about this ordinance? I guess we've laid to rest where we're at. Okay. I make a motion that we adjourn
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
All right.
I'm gonna think about aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending.
Now, if you want to have a work session, we should do that.
This was about the COVID relief for